Hi and welcome to Teach the Table. I'm Nathan and today I'm going to be showing you how to play Race for the Galaxy. It's a game kind of in the same vein as San Juan and Puerto Rico as far as how it works, but in a much better space theme of galactic conquest, building a galactic civilization. So let's set it up and I'll show you how to do it. This is an example of a 4-player setup of the game. Each player has a tableau in front of them where they show their little galactic civilization. It includes up to 12 cards before the game is over, and each player is going to be building cards which are worlds or developments in front of them. Ultimately the goal is to get the most points. These are the little victory point chips. They have little dashes in them which represent each amount of points. So that's 1 point, or that one, it's got 5 little lines in it, so that's a 5-point chip. And whoever has the most points at the end of the game is the winner. Each player has a round summary in front of them which shows all the different phases of the game, and each player will have these decks of cards which all have the same color backing. They're all identical, just different colors. So each player is one color, and they show all the different phases of the game that you can choose. So each player is going to choose one phase secretly. We reveal them together, and then those are the phases of the game that we're going to actually carry out. But the bonus for you, if you choose a certain phase, everyone will get to do that phase. For example, if I choose Explore to get more cards in my hand, everyone will get to do that, but I get a special bonus for choosing that phase. So you want to choose wisely. Don't choose something that's going to be a big advantage to someone else, but also take into account that bonus that you'll get for yourself. So this game is pretty heavy in iconography. If you flip over your round summary to the back, there's a list of all the icons in the game. So if you get confused about what something means, just look there. That's a really great resource. All in all, I think the icons in the game do a pretty good job of representing what they're supposed to. But if you haven't played before, or if you haven't played in a long while, it could get a little confusing. So that's a good place to go from the start. So a quick gist of how this game is going to work is each player is going to be building up their tableau by playing cards there. And there's 2 types of cards, worlds or developments. Developments are going to give you some sort of advantage as the game progresses, and worlds could potentially give you, produce some sort of goods, which you could then trade for money, or you could consume for victory points. And then at the end of the game, all the cards have this little hexagon up on the top, which is not really shown. There it is. So this one's worth 4 points. Anything in the little hexagon indicates points in this game. So these are 3 examples of worlds that I've chosen at random to show you the difference between them. All of them have circles here which indicate that they're worlds, as well as a number of victory points next to it if they're in your tableau at the end of the game. If it has a solid color inside the world like this, then that world would produce a certain type of good. In this case, it's brown. If it only has a halo of a color around it, like this one, then it only produces goods when you first build it. It doesn't throughout the game. So only the first time that you build that world does it produce a good. And then the last one is this solid yellow one, but you can see it has red lettering on it. So the red lettering in there, that indicates that it's a military world. So normally you'd have to pay a cost. Like in this case, it would cost 4 to build this world. And that would be basically 4 cards out of your hand that you discard in order to build it. If it's a military world, you don't have to pay any cost out of your hand, but you have to have military already on the board in your tableau equal to or greater than that value before you can play it. So some cards will give you this little bonus, this +1 here. Anything in red indicates military. So if I had a bunch of those on my tableau already and they added up to 6, then I could play that one because they have a military strength equal to or greater than 6. And like you can see on this one, once you've built it, you get an additional military of 3. So this is what developments in the game look like. They have a diamond instead of a circle, and they're all going to have just this tan sort of beigey color inside. So they're not going to produce goods or anything like that. So a little less complicated. They just have the cost inside of what it costs to play it. So this one would cost 1, this one would cost 2 in order to play that in your tableau. Down here, you see all the different phases of the game, which I'll get into in a second, and I'll show you the bonuses. So for example, in phase 2, there's a bonus here. This one gives you a bonus in phase 3, etc. So that's a good segue now. Let's go into showing you all the different phases of the game. So every player in the game will have their deck of all these cards with all one single solid color on the back, and they're all identical on the front. It's just a different color so that you know which one you are and you can keep your deck together. They all have the same roles or different phases of the game. and you can choose one secretly. Everyone's going to reveal them face up together, and then we're going to go through all those phases that people chose, and they go in order. So starting with phase 1 all the way down to phase 5. First phase is the explore phase, which basically just gives you more cards in your hand. So there's special bonuses if you're the person who chose one of these phases, then you could potentially get more cards, or you could get better choices of the cards. So normally everyone, even if you didn't choose this phase, is going to get to draw 2 cards in their hand, and they get to keep one of those. So they're going to get a net of 1. But if you chose it, you could look at an additional card and keep an additional card. So you would get to look at 3 cards and get to keep 2 out of the 3. Or you can look at an additional 5. So you could look at 7 cards and just keep 1. So one of them will give you some extra cards, a little bonus there, and one of them lets you look at more cards. So if there's a certain type of card or a card you really want, potentially you have a better chance of finding it, so you can keep it. Phase 2 of the game is the develop phase, and that's where people are going to get to play developments, the little diamond cards, from their hand down into their tableau by paying the cost. So everyone would get to choose one that they want to play, and they set it face down in their area, and we all reveal them together and pay the cost. The advantage for the person who chose this phase is you get a little discount, so you get a discount of 1. So if a card costed 3 to play, now you only have to get rid of 2 cards to place that card. Phase 3 of the game is the settle phase. So just like the develop phase, now you can settle planets. So you can build a planet card into your tableau. So it works the same way. Each player is going to choose one card that they want to play in their tableau face down, and once everyone's done that, then you flip it face up and you pay the cost to do that. And like I mentioned before, you may not have to pay a cost if you're doing a military world with the red lettering in there. And that would indicate that you just have to have a military strength on your tableau equal to or greater than that. Now the bonus in the settle phase is not that you get a discount on placing a world, because like I said, military, sometimes you don't have to pay anything. So instead of getting a discount, you pay the normal amount, but then you get a bonus card into your hand if you settled a world that turn, if you chose this phase. The 4th phase in the game is consuming goods, which I haven't showed you yet. That's the 5th phase. But we'll talk about, let's pretend that we already had a good on here. You can put goods on top of cards like this or underneath to indicate that in this case it's a brown good. And there's 2 different ways that you can do the consume phase. You can either trade, which is only if you choose this card. You could trade that brown good. In this case, it would be worth 3 cards in your hand as indicated on the card. Or if you chose the normal consume, then you can consume if you have a consume power on your card. So you look around your cards in phase 4, which we're in, you can consume a good of any color for, in this case, 1 card in your hand. Some of them will give you victory points, some of them will give you cards or any combination. If you chose the consume for victory points, then you would get double that victory point. So if this card would let me consume this brown good for a victory point, I would get 2 in this case. But right now it just says I get a card in my hand. So that will give you sort of a bonus, but you have to remember that you have to have a consume power, and you can only use 1 in this phase. So you can't consume all your goods if you had a bunch of them through this power. You can only do 1 to 1. So the 5th phase is the produce phase, and this is where we produce goods on our worlds that allow us to do so. So if I chose this, everyone gets to go around and produce goods. Like in this case, this would be a blue good on there. The special bonus if you chose this role is that you can produce a good on one of your windfall worlds, which, like I mentioned, the windfall with a little halo only produces goods when you first put it down. It never produces goods later in the game, except for in this scenario. So I could use that little bonus to also produce a brown good like so. So after everyone chooses which phase they want to do secretly, we reveal them face up and we do them in order. So in this case, 1, 2, 3, 5. So everyone would get to do phase 1, then everyone would do phase 2, everyone does phase 3, and everyone does phase 5. At the end of that, once everyone's done their actions, if they can, then everyone has to discard down to 10 cards in your hand. That's your hand limit. And then we're going to proceed and do that again. Everyone gets their little colored cards back, and then they can choose another phase. The game's going to continue like this over and over and over until someone has either built their 12th card in their tableau, which indicates the end of the game, or if all of the little victory point chips are used up. So there's a certain number of victory points available in the game, depending on the number of players. And once those are all gone, then you just use a pen and paper to tally up any additional, and then we score the end of the game. So the person with the most victory points, including chips in their hand or in their tableau already, or you also add up the number of victory points on the cards as well. So some cards have a value like so, this one's worth 1. Some cards will have a question mark value, which just indicates that there's some sort of bonus at the end of the game, depending on what they've done, that their tableau includes. So that's how you play Race for the Galaxy. It's a really fun game, especially considering that it's just card-based and a few little victory point cardboard tokens. But do remember that all that iconography in the game can get people kind of confused. So go straight to that reference on the back of these sheets if you have any questions about what something means. It's probably on there, and it's probably not as complicated as it looks on the cards. So thanks for watching this video. If you like these videos, subscribe to my channel and let me know in the comments if there's anything that you want to see me make a video for in the future. Thanks. See you next time.